We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you tonight. We are guesting it up, baby. We are guesting it up. We got a lot to talk about around your SEC. We get back to it. We skipped out last week because we were out for those days. Monday, Tuesday, I think Wednesday too. My days are blurring together on how many days we were out last week. So we're getting back around the SEC. We will go to Athens. We will make the short hour long flight to Athens, Georgia, to our good friend Graham Coffey to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Can those dogs repeat? I don't think that they can, but we'll see. We'll talk to Graham about it. Is Stetson Bennett going to be the man continued there in Athens? And Arch Manning, is he going to be a Bulldog? We'll talk to him about that. Let's take a look back. Guys, something that I really like to do, this time of the year is go back and watch a lot of the LSU games from a season ago. I think that there's one player that, although he had his struggles a season ago, and some of you probably already heard me talk about this last night, but there are a couple of them, but one player in particular defensively and one player in particular offensively that we're going to focus on tonight in the breakdowns that I did of last season and those games, and guys that could be very key contributors this upcoming fall. So we'll look into that, and I'm sure Ruffino's rants is going to be sparked on that as well. And then, guys, the NBA draft is tomorrow. Making his AYS debut is none other than Aunt Petty Murphy. I don't know how to really say it other than I don't think there's anybody I would rather want to listen to about speaking the NBA and basketball than Aunt Murphy. He's always in the comments. He's always chiming in. So I'm really excited. We'll try to get to Ant as quickly and focus on the pedals and talk about the NBA draft with him around 7:50. So Graham Coffey at 7:30 and Ant Murphy at 7:50. And to all you Rudy Crew members and LSU fans, my good buddies Mike Scarborough and Buddy Sonji will be doing their video, doing their show, right after this at 8 o'clock. So after we're done, go over there to tigerbait.com, LSU Tigers on Tigerbait on YouTube. Give them subscribe as well. Watch their show. They're always fantastic. Buddy and Mike are really good at their jobs. Okay, let's get to a couple comments, though, before we get started. Doug No says, we are live. That we are. Ken Mallory says, let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Lamar Williams says, we applying pressure all summer. Pressure, can I hold $40 to tomorrow? Actually, can I borrow $300 and not pay it back? Brother's got bills around this thing, man. This new studio, all this stuff, it don't come cheap, man. I'm just a young Italian with a dream. Just a young Italian with a dream. Rob Boudreaux says, the greatest damn sports football show there is. I appreciate that, Rob. I appreciate that. Rocky says, we behind an NIL. Well, if you listen to some people. LGZ says, let's go. It's hump day, baby. What's up, LGZ? Chris Barnhill says, hashtag Ask Blake, who are the leading candidates for the two coaching positions open at LSU baseball? Really, man, there's not a lot of movement. I'll continue to hit the table for Christian Ostrander as my pitching coach, or as the LSU pitching coach. But man, it's kind of quiet. And like we've been mentioning, and like I've been mentioning, there are a lot of rumblings coming out around Jay Johnson. I say Jay Johnson, but LSU baseball, not Jay in particular, that he wants to get through the MLB draft. He wants to get through recruiting and then hire his staff, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but it's how he's going to do it. And look, if you get great baseball players to come here. There's nothing really I can say about that. I mean, Jay knows what he's doing. Jay knows exactly what he's doing. Chris English says, gotta have some recruiting news, or gonna have some recruiting news soon. I agree with you there. I think it could come tomorrow at 2 p.m. Some of you, it may go over your head, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna go over take the kid's spotlight. How about that? I'm not going to take the young man's spotlight. C. King, where have you been? I mean, C. King, bro, look at him. Look at him out there in Fiji. Look at his profile pic on Facebook. I mean, my man is living in style, y'all. My man's living in style, dog. C, let me hold $300 to tomorrow. What's up, C? He says, y'all better jump on the bandwagon now. LSU football will run the table. Okay. I like that. BK Takeover, Ryan on YouTube says, I need a pressure NIL deal. Don't we all? Don't we all? Rick on Facebook. What's up, Rick? He says, a lot of O-line offers going out recently. Who's Coach Davis going to land, in your opinion? I'm going to be cautious with that. I think I'm going to ask that question tomorrow. And you'll find out why. You'll find out why. You'll see. You'll see. Blaine Smith says NBA draft is tomorrow. Yep, we will have Aunt Petty Murphy to join us at 7:50. You got to get Zalance Hurd, though, man, from Neville. You got to get Zalance Hurd. I mean, like, all your chips in the table. Like, if you only have $20 in NIL money you can spend, which isn't true, we would, I would be cautious. But, you spend it on Zalance Hurd. No question about it. I am keeping my eyes, though, on Walker White, quarterback out of Arkansas. I think you should as well. The Golden Boot Pod. Bro, Pooh Bear and Zach are leaving me hanging. Pooh Bear's like, oh, man, I got to work, support my family, I got to do something. And I'm like, okay, Pooh. But Pooh Bear's joining us. What's up, Pooh? What's happening? Kenny says, hopefully Hurd from Neville. Yeah, all chips in the table. Absolutely every chip in the table. All right, let's get this thing rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. If you're listening to us on Facebook, so many of you every single night are listening to us on Facebook. Do us a favor and hit the like and share. Share to some Facebook groups. Share to your own social media pages. I want to be able to click on the shares and see that everybody that watched us shared it. Do us a favor. It's not that I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much. Just hit the like and share. If you're listening to us on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell. Share it to Twitter, Facebook, all that great stuff as well. We appreciate it. If you're listening to us on the XM Radio or you're listening to us anywhere that you listen to podcasts, rate, review, subscribe, all of that great stuff. And we greatly, greatly appreciate you doing it. So share, share, share. Do your brother a favor. Hit the like and share. All right, let's get this thing rolling, though. Let's pay these bills around here, and then we'll get rolling. None better than our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons and betonline.ag. Be back in a minute. Our partners over at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas, casino, and poker games. It's easy to get started, so head on over to their website. Use betonline.ag. Use that promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. That's BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Varno and Sons, go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992, 225-664-9992. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Chris says that the Pistol Pete statue unveiling on July 25th. Yeah, let's start there. And that's something I didn't mention in the beginning. Obviously, it was our thumbnail when we started the show. Guys, quite honestly, and let's just be for real. This is well past due with Pete Maravich. Well past due with Pete Maravich. You got to give Scott Woodward a lot of credit. You got Simone Augustus is getting a statue. That's going up, number being retired. Pete Maravich, he's got a statue. It's going up. Guys, with all due respect, what took so damn long? Like, to all of the LSU alums, what took, and boosters and ADs and presidents, what took so damn long? I understand that the man's name is literally the stadium you play in, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. But, man, I mean, come on. Look, Pistol Pete, you can look up all the stats. We all know it already. There's nothing that I'm going to say that someone hasn't said 1,000 times before me. But Pistol Pete deserves it. Shaq deserved it. Simone deserved it. Joe Burrow will get a statue probably in 2025. I think you got to wait the 5 years or whatever to get the statue. He will get a statue. But you can't be scared to spend money. As the I want to be petty. I am going to be petty. As the great Billy Napier says, scared money don't make money. Billy Napier's in a little bit of heat, by the way. Billy Napier's cutting players left and right. Cut 4 of them today, and now Florida fans and LSU fans, everybody's freaking out because Jaden Rashada's going to Miami. At least that's what Twitter tells me. I don't know about Jaden Rashada, nor if he goes to Miami, he's not in the SEC. Good luck to the young man. Good luck. Y'all got to relax on this BK thing, man. Y'all got to relax. Rocky says, I run into the message board with everything Blake says today. Well, just be a typical old Tuesday. Oh, wait, is it Wednesday? Be a typical old Wednesday. Pooh Bear says, if I had the right NIL deal, I could work on podcasts full time. Instead, I'm stuck working the polls for my spare change. Oh, God. So great. Trey Patton says, hashtag Ask Blake, what's your opinion on the College World Series final starting on Saturday now? Makes it tough on the loser bracket teams. Well, man, it doesn't really bother me, man. I mean, what do you need an extra day for? I get it, rest, all this kind of stuff, but you're giving the loser bracket teams an advantage when really and truthfully you should be giving the teams that won the advantage. And I'm not sure what the score is on the game right now. Y'all keep us up to date. Keep us up to date on the scores. Was it Ole Miss and Arkansas? I was watching it before we came in here, but I didn't pull it up. Here, I'm going to pull it up now so we can watch it. So keep us updated. Keep us updated on all that. Okay, let's talk about this. I know that this will probably spark a Ruffino's rants, but I got to talk about this. I know that we talked about this last night in Twitter Spaces. It's 1-1 in the bottom of the fourth, Ole Miss and Arkansas. I want to say this. Look, everybody do us a favor too. Everybody right now, stop what you're doing. Stop. Hit the like and share. Graham Coffey in about 15. Let me say this. This time of year, I really start watching and going back over and looking through all of LSU's games from a season ago. Right? Like the other day, I was watching Florida, then Arkansas. Today, a lot of Arkansas. I think I watched the Arkansas game, the clips, that just pretty much the highlights, probably 4 or 5 times. Alabama. Who else did I watch yesterday and today? I forget. Was it Ole Miss? It might have been Ole Miss. But those were the 4 games I really focused on. Oh, A&M. I'm sorry. It was A&M, the last game of the season. Guys, there's 2 players I'm going to point out here that I think could be primed for really big seasons. One of them you won't necessarily notice because that position just doesn't really and truthfully get a lot of praise. You talk about them when they do bad, but you never talk about them when they do good. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Guys, the more and more I watch Anthony Bradford, and I'll do too, Anthony Bradford and Marlon Martinez play. I understand that you got Tremont Shorts. I get that Miles Frazier is here. I get that Garrett Dellinger is coming back. But, man, if those kids, and Jacob Flint is somebody, the strength coach that we talked about a lot, whether it be on this show, Spaces, whatever it may be, of how he's getting the team ready to go. Physically, mentally, they look a lot better. They seem a lot healthier. Their bodies are starting to transform than the way that we've seen in such a long time. And, man, when I'm watching Anthony Bradford against Florida, when I'm watching Anthony Bradford or Marlon Martinez against Alabama, and those 2 guys are legitimately probably not in the position that they deserve or belong or need to be in, and they are moving the pile. See, the biggest misconception, the funniest thing to me was last year when Ty Davis Price started picking it up, when Ty Davis Price started to get the running game going for himself. The biggest lie in all of it was that the offensive line played like crap. Guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but now that you can take a step back, you probably won't get pissed off at a game, go back and watch it. Those 2 young men really did good and some really good things. Was the scheme ass? Yes. Was Jake Peetz horrendous? Yes. But, guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your offensive scheme can't be that bad. And players, you say, oh, well, it's all on the players. Guys, when you know when something's coming, you're going to get dominated. And quite frankly, the NFL told you what they thought of 2 members, really 3, and Chasen Hines, Austin Deculus, and Ed Ingram. Guys, those 3 guys got drafted. You think they're just making the picks just for the hell of it? Some maybe late round, 7th round, whatever. But you've seen Sean Payton go up and trade to get back in the 7th round to take a quarterback that he'll never play or use just so Joe Brady doesn't have him. I'm fully convinced with a average to just competent offensive scheme and philosophy, LSU wins 7 to 8 games last year. And I know it's only 1 more, 2 more, whatever. Guys, there's no reason that LSU should have lost to Arkansas. The Wildcat formation, what a blunder. What an absolute dumb. And it's not dumb, guys. It's just idiotic. Like the worst you could probably get. And quite frankly, Ty Davis Price should have caught that snap and gotten the first down. Blocked beautifully, by the way. Blocked beautifully. I don't want to say this again about Ty Davis Price, but the fumble against Alabama when you're about to go about 2 touchdowns. Guys, killed you. Killed you. He gained, I think, let me check my, oh, here it is. He had gained 19 yards on a run before he fumbled. You were inside the 20, or about to be inside the 20. Multiple passes being broke up. Guys, we talk about Max Johnson. At this point, say what you want about Max. Say whatever you want. I really don't care anymore. It doesn't bother me. It never did bother me. Jake Peetz was the worst offensive coordinator, maybe outside of Les, but at least Les had an identity, and you really couldn't stop what Les was calling. Toss dive, we're going to run it until you stop the shit. So what if it's 3 plays that he ran? So what? He built a team to be able to run it effectively and wear teams out and run you the F over. That's just the bottom line. You can hate Loveless all the live long day, but the Les's teams were going to take it to you. They were going to take it to you. And you had a guy that had 27 touchdowns. You better be careful. So the two guys that I think that in the film that I just continued to watch, man, if Anthony Bradford can and Jacob Flint can do his magic on Anthony Bradford, guys, it is of my opinion that you could see this kid absolutely erupt and come onto the scene like nobody else. I don't know so much about Marlon Martinez, but Anthony Bradford moved dudes out of the way. Go watch Florida. Guys, it is not easy to move a 330-pound man. It's not easy to be his size at 365 pounds and run down a linebacker. He's not going to play at 360. He's just not. He's just not. Another one. And let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. I could and should and want to very badly say Mike Jones. But I'm not going to do that. Last night, or yesterday around 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, as I'm watching it before we're getting ready for the show. And I'm sitting here watching the game, and I'm watching these highlights. Guys, if you go back and watch Jay Ward, my God, I'll give you Florida. I'll give you the Hail Mary. Guys, he tried to catch the ball. He tried to intercept it. Receiver jumped in front of him, whatever. If you go and watch that play, Dwight McLaughlin just gave up. Pig Cage gave up. Cordell Flight was standing there with his hands on his hips. The only person actually trying to do something, and really and truthfully, Jay Ward was doing exactly what he should have been doing at attacking the ball that's in the air, the guys in front of him batting it down or attempting to bat it down. Guys, Jay Ward had multiple interceptions, multiple tackles in the open field against Alabama, Arkansas, Ole Miss. Or was it Ole Miss? No, A&M, excuse me. Guys, that if Jay Ward wasn't there, you're in big-time trouble. And if that young man who's going to be playing safety for the second year in a row, and we saw what he did in the spring game against guys like John Emery, watch out. See, the funny thing is it's twofold for me at this point. When I watch Jay Ward and he's the last line of defense and he makes an open field tackle on a kid that was drafted, 14th in Jamison Williams, when he's making open tackles against John Mechie in the open field with nobody around him, and he's literally the last line of defense. When I see him going up against Florida and knocking Dameon Pierce's mouthpiece out multiple times, I will live a little bit with a missed tackle that he had. Does Jay need to get better in the open field and better angles and things like that? Yes. That's not his position, though. That's not what Jay excels at. Go watch when Jay Ward played free safety and was able to roam around the field. You know what it looked like? Interceptions. Don't let some of those blown coverages fool you. He wasn't the one blowing them. It's interesting to me, man. If that young man can build on the season and the 69 tackles that he had a season ago and continue to get interceptions, because the kid's going to find the football, man. If you go watch the Florida game again, go watch the Arkansas game again, go watch the Alabama game again, and put a tally every time you see number 5 around the ball and in your screen or making a tackle. Guys, it will blow your absolute mind. It will blow your mind. Does he got to get better in some areas? Sure. Absolutely. That's where I sit, man. In reference to it being twofold, you have a lot of talent. Man, quite honestly, I sit here and I watch and I watch and I watch and I watch, and I'm thinking, good God, man, how much more talent do you really freaking need? I mean, sure, you would want more. Guys, if Brian Kelly can find a way, to get some of these guys that are inexperienced on offensive side of the ball, some of the guys that are unexperienced in the SEC, but guys, there's no reason that they can't have 9 wins. But the lack of inexperience in the SEC on the offensive side of the ball does worry me. All right, let's get to a couple of these comments. Graham Coffey in 2 minutes. We'll go over to Athens, and we'll talk some Georgia Bulldogs, and we'll continue to talk the SEC. Chris Barnhill says 2-1 Arkansas, top of 5. Chris English says, "Who Mike Jones? Who Mike Jones? Yeah, I could have picked Mike, but I'm going to stay with Jay Ward. Blaine Smith says Max would have been much better with Denbrock this season, and I agree with that. I fully agree with that. Guys, you can't – the funniest thing to me is when we say Jake Peets, LSU's former offensive coordinator, was – and I'm quoting most of you in these Twitter spaces – one person in particular saying he was ass water. That person was me. And Max Johnson having 27 touchdowns. You can make fun of Max Johnson all you want. Noodle arm, this, that, and the third, whatever you want to call him. In 13 starts in his career, he has 37 touchdowns. Let me repeat that. In 13 career starts, which would be a full season without making the playoff, the young man has 37 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. Sign me up. Guys, if you told me right now that Miles Brennan, Garrett Nussmeier, Jane Daniels, any one of those 3 quarterbacks would have 37 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, I would sign the contract in blood. I would sign it in blood. All right, 2 more, and then we're going to get to Graham Coffey. Golden Boot Pod says, hey, remember that time Dr. Jack Marucci called the running plays and ran the ball 40 times against Florida? I do. I'm old enough to remember that. LG says Jay just needs more consistency in tackling. Dude is a baller. Also says Jay just needs consistency. Dude is a baller. It's the same comment. And yes. Pierce Lee says that's an irrelevant pause, Blake. Oh, Ant Marshall, who's coming up at 7:50. Says the new strength and conditioning coach is going to help Jay's game a lot. I agree with that. Looks a lot bigger. Put on some weight. Okay, let's go to Athens. With the first pick in the AYS Georgia draft, we're going to Athens to talk to Graham Coffey. But first, we have to go and pay these bills so, guys, I can keep these goddamn lights on. It's an arm and a leg to keep for a light bill, dude. It's insane. But let's talk about our good friends over at Grantco, my good friend Carol Falls over at State Farm. Guys, with the inflation, with gas prices, with your mortgage, everything going up, you need to call my good friend Carol Falls at State Farm. Let him lower your insurance rates. What is a phone call going to hurt you? The worst thing he can tell you is, I can't help you. But you need to give him a call today. But let's pay these bills. Our friends over at Grantco, my good friend Carol Falls over at State Farm. Guys, we'll be back in a minute and 30 with Graham Coffey. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Grantco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Grantco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Grantco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramcode.com. Use that promo code AYS25. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. We're back. All righty. Welcome back to the show. Graham Coffey. Can you hear me?
Hold on, Blake. I can't hear you.
Okay. Guys in the comments, let me know if you can hear me. Maybe it's just me. Can you hear me now? Uh-oh.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I got you.
All right, awesome. I played the Graham Coffey's our guest. You got to love technology. I played the Sam Ehlinger, We're Back. It's not because of Georgia, though. I promise you. We play it every time we come out of a commercial break, Graham. I just got to let you know that. But, my man, what's happening? How have you been? It's been a long time.
Good, man. Yeah. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, look, we've been going around the SEC, and we want to go to Athens. Okay, we've been to Arkansas. We've been to Bama. We've been to South Carolina. Now we're going back down to Athens. Graham, I got to ask you, the number one question that everybody wants to know, when is Arch Manning committing to the Georgia Bulldogs?
Man, that is a good question. There was some buzz a month or two ago that we wouldn't see him until, probably after his senior season. He did an interview, one of the few interviews he's ever done, talking about, hey, I want to see how Sark does in year two, and I want to see what, these teams do here and there. And then he comes off this Texas visit, and there's a little bit of whispers that, hey, maybe we'll see something before the end of the summer. I think if you're a Georgia fan and it turns out he's committing before the end of the summer, that's good news, just because I think there's far less question marks around Kirby Smart's program right now than there is Steve Sarkisian's. Man, I still think that Georgia has the lead here, but it's tough. No official visit ever goes bad. And, of course, he was in Austin last weekend. Right. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement there from Texas folks, as there should be. But Georgia has been kind of the most consistent force throughout this recruitment. I think if UGA didn't chase Caleb Williams in the transfer portal after the national title game, he's probably committed to UGA at this point now. So I think if you're a Georgia fan, you can still feel good, but it's tough, man. There's not much information coming out of that camp. Obviously, they've kept things pretty tight-lipped down there. So anyone that says they know everything that's going on there, or even has an idea of when exactly he's going to commit, I think is maybe exaggerating the truth a little bit.
I agree with that, Graham. And we live here. We saw him, I think, what was it, last week at the LSU 7-on-7 camp, and the buzz was, everybody was talking about him and that, and it was just like, man, the kid doesn't even know where he's going yet. Why do you know?
Exactly.
Are you, Graham, though, and look, I want to get to on the field with Georgia because Arch Manning's not playing next year, so it doesn't really, it's a little irrelevant, but it is Arch Manning. Are you a little surprised, though? Because, look, Kirby has been what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say gotten a lot of heat for the offense and what the offense has done in Georgia, but he has a little bit, right? Very pro-style, very conservative. But then all of a sudden you win a national title. Arch Manning's trending to Georgia. Are you surprised, though, that Georgia is what some people believe the top of that leaderboard for him? And is it maybe Todd Monken that is swaying this with the pro-style and the pro-style things that they do at Georgia?
Yeah, for sure. I think the greatest testament to Todd Monken is what he did with Stetson Bennett last year.
Agreed.
Formationally, they did a ton of things to disguise tendencies and really confuse defenses and defensive coordinators. So I think he deserves a ton of credit going back to what he did at Oklahoma State and at the Tampa Bay Bucks with Jameis Winston. And, his track record speaks for itself. I think the name that probably a lot of people outside of UGA circles don't know very well that has been really key in this recruitment is Buster Faulkner. And he was down at Southern Miss once upon a time. He was the OC there. Has a relationship, he's a South Mississippi, South Louisiana guy. And so he has a relationship with the Mannings that goes back, I think, a lot further than a lot of folks realize. Matt Luke as well. Obviously, there's the Ole Miss tie with Archie and Eli and Cooper as well, who went to school there. He's not obviously on the staff at UGA anymore, but I think he's still doing a little work for Georgia behind the scenes on this deal. So the thing I think for Georgia is you hear a lot about Arch having a good relationship with Steve Sarkisian, and I have no reason to believe that's not true. But I think when you look at what's going on with the staff in Athens, there's a few strong relationships there. I don't think it totally hinges on one guy, but some folks may, there's been buzz for a while that we'll see an extension for Todd Monken before this season starts. And I think if that happens, that's maybe another good indicator that he's found the quarterback that he wants to coach for the next few years, and that's enough to keep him in college instead of going back to the NFL ranks.
It would be huge, and I'm assuming Todd is involved in that all the way. And look, there's not a lot of offensive coordinators in college that have that NFL experience like Todd Monken does. So I think it would be very interesting. One thing, though, before we get on the field for this upcoming season with Georgia, I want to talk to you about Cortez Hankton. Obviously, new LSU wide receivers coach. We look, Louisiana people know a lot about Cortez. You can't be from the state of Louisiana, recruit the way that he does, win a national title elsewhere, and you don't keep up with him. But we didn't follow the day-to-day at Georgia. We saw the big games, Jermaine Burton. We saw all of that. But what can you tell LSU fans, though, on the field about Cortez Hankton and what they should expect?
I think the last year at Georgia got kind of interesting because you have to remember Todd Monken was a wide receivers coach before he ever became an offensive coordinator. And so I think he had a way that he wanted things done. I'm not sure that him and Hankton always saw eye to eye. That doesn't necessarily mean one's right, one's wrong. But I think for Georgia fans, there were times where they felt like the recruiting was good and they would get a guy on campus and they didn't see him maybe develop as a route runner the way that they had hoped. You saw a lot of Georgia wide receivers go and work with Terrence Edwards in the offseason in Atlanta,
right.
Former UGA receiver who runs his own receiver kind of academy there. I think if I was an LSU fan, that might be my major concern is just what happens development-wise. But if you look at that wide receiver core last year from game one versus Clemson to all the way through, you had guys that no one ever thought was going to be on the field making significant contributions. Ladd McConkey and A.D. Mitchell was a first-year kid on campus. And so I think that is a credit to the depth that he was able to assemble in Athens. You watched kind of throughout the year like the downfield blocking and the blocking on the perimeter by the receivers improved greatly. So I think maybe the plus for him, if I was kind of grading him, is from week 1 to week 15, he did a lot to improve that group. But maybe the question would be why weren't some of those things happening from the start of the season, right?
That is very interesting. And look, he obviously didn't have his number one receiver that was on the field a lot.
Or two, yeah. I mean, Burton was never healthy. Kyrus Jackson was never healthy. The top, really the starting guys that you thought were going to be the first rotation, none of them were ever fully healthy last year. So,
I mean, there wasn't really a time that Jermaine Burton and George Pickens ever really saw time together, right? I mean, I don't ever remember just because of injury.
Until the Natty, yeah, really. And, I mean, Pickens was on a snap restriction. I think he had 12 routes running that entire game. But he made them count, right? But
you're right. He did. He did. Hey, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you make them count, you make them count. Graham Coffey's our guest. We'll let you know where you can catch all of his stuff, and you follow him on Twitter and all that great stuff as well. Graham, let's get on the field. Obviously, the best defense that we've seen in a long time was in Athens a season ago. You're replacing a lot. You're replacing the big mountain in the middle. You're replacing Davis at linebacker. But man, Kirby has recruited very well on the defensive side of the ball. What should we expect though from Kirby? What is this defense going to just reload, or is there going to be some rebuilding? We've seen him do it with Nick in Alabama, but has he built this team to reload on the defensive side?
Yeah, I think talent-wise they reload. I mean, that front seven last year was so special that it allowed them to
Right.
do some things schematically that really, aren't the norm for a Kirby Smart defense or for any college football defense for that matter. And that really allowed them to protect the secondary. Ringo obviously had the big pick six to end the season, but he struggled at times. The reality, though, was just nobody ever really had to worry about him that much because no quarterback was getting enough time for somebody to get behind him. So I think that's the question for Georgia more is you're probably going to see less 5-6 man rushes and more measures taken to kind of keep things steady on the back end, probably more kind of cover 2, cover 3 concepts on the back end. And so who steps up on the front side to be able to really rush the passer and kind of create pressure to protect those young guys in the secondary. Chris Smith comes back at strong safety, but lots of questions besides him and Ringo. You don't really know who the other safety is going to be, who's going to play slot corner, who's going to play that other boundary corner spot. So I think that's the big question. Everyone looks at where the guys were drafted from and assumes the drop-off comes in the front seven, but looking at what's been recruited there and kind of some of the rotation guys from last season, I don't think you have as many issues there. Like, Georgia's not going to get gashed on the ground. That's not happening. But, like, you look at that Mississippi State game on the schedule, right? Like, that one I think probably scares you a little bit if you're a Georgia fan. That schedule for Georgia lines up so favorably right now. I don't know who's really going to, like, make them strain from a passing attack standpoint until you get to maybe November or December. So that's sort of the question. Is I don't know that we'll know anything of substance even from that Oregon game with what they have coming back.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Obviously, you're playing Oregon. You're playing your former DC in his first ever game. I think that's all. College football gives us that stuff. And look, let's see. Does your DC leaving? How do you adjust? I mean, he knows them really well. He knows you better than you know his team, right? But look, Bo Nix, Bo Nix, and so we'll see how that goes. Graham Coffey joining us. A couple more, Graham. Look, obviously, I got to go to the mailman and talk about Stetson Bennett. Now, I've been a defender of the mailman. Okay, look, there's a difference, in my opinion, in being a really good college quarterback and being an NFL prospect, and I just think that Stetson is just a really damn good college quarterback. He makes right decisions. He gets out of the pocket. He runs when he needs to. He gets down. He stays upright. But he's got a lot of talent behind him. Mm-hmm. Am I supposed to believe what I hear from some that he has a very short leash in this offense after coming off a national title run?
I think that depends on how fall camp goes and how Carson Beck looks. Carson Beck looked really good in the spring game. He did. And he, you could see some very substantial improvement from that time a year ago from spring 2020 to to 2022, very big difference. He looks like he's getting through progression, seeing the field. He has more of an arm than Stetson does. I don't think anybody would argue that, but Stetson kind of just has that thing, right, where when a game gets sort of stressful and you really need a clean possession and to go score a touchdown, he always seems to do it. And that's something that you can't really measure in fall camp. So I wouldn't say he has a short leash by any means. I think that offensive line is going to probably be the strongest unit on the team. That tight end room is insane with Gilbert, Bowers, Darnell Washington. There's a ton of receiving talent. The running backs are good. So I think Stetson has been mislabeled at times as a game manager. He's not. Honestly, I think there's times where Georgia would like for him to dial it back because he'll kind of just have a couple YOLO plays a half and
SEC championship game, right?
Yeah. Or even against Michigan, you're up 3 touchdowns in the second half and he's throwing across his body into triple coverage. Yeah, and it's whoa, and I think sometimes he presses and tries to make those plays. And if he does that, then I could see him ending up being replaced at some point. But if he plays point guard, he'll be fine. And I think that's really all he needs to do for Georgia to get back to where they want to be in December and January, probably.
I did want to ask you about Eric Gilbert very quickly before we get to these fan questions. How's his progression going? Obviously, people at LSU know a lot about Eric Gilbert, some of the things that happened off the field, but I don't want to go into that. Let's let the man progress. How is his offseason going so far?
Really well, by all accounts. I think the best thing that ever happened to him was just, him and his family and Georgia staff making that decision to say, we're not going to worry about you playing football in 2021. We're going to worry about you, going to school and just having good, healthy life habits, right? And
right.
It seems like all of that is carried over. I mean, that spring game performance that he put out was really like tantalizing, I think, for all Georgia fans and for just football fans that want to see a unique talent. You think about the fact that apparently at the start of spring practice, he was almost 300 pounds. And so he's out there on G-Day at 280, catching a couple touchdown passes and beasting folks over the middle. And it's like, well, what's going to happen with, another 6 months of conditioning and all of that good stuff between that day and, between him being 300 pounds and the start of the season. So I think everyone's excited about him. I do think, like, from all that I've heard, you can count on him playing football for Georgia this year. I'd be very surprised if he's not. I don't know that Georgia really has to, like, force him into being a 14 target a game kind of guy right off the bat, right? I think they can kind of let him ease into the process and probably still be winning games comfortably. But it's one of those things where when it comes to facing an Alabama or, a potential playoff scenario or SEC championship game scenario, it's like he's the mismatch, right? And so
he is.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you give him a full off season and then a full kind of season of weekly practices to get into prime conditioning, it could be the X factor for them come the end of the season.
Now, I know you mentioned McIntosh, but LG says, #Ask Graham, what are your expectations for McIntosh this year?
I think he's the number one back for sure. And I don't think that's anything to do with Kendall Milton's kind of injury issues in the past. What he does as a running back, I think I was someone that was critical of him, or maybe not just him, but some of the situations that he was used in. His first couple years, you would see him in the game sometimes on 3rd and short, and I just was like, he's not that guy. And then all of a sudden, come November of last year, it's 3rd and short, he's getting hit 2 yards short of the sticks, and he's moving piles, right? And it's like, well, all of a sudden you kind of couple that power with the speed and agility that we already knew was there, and you've got something special. I think the biggest thing about him is that he runs routes like a slot receiver. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like when he's in the game, he's hardly ever, in there to pass block. Like if he's in the game on a passing down, 9 times out of 10, he's going out for a pass. And so you look at what Georgia did with James Cook last year, and you feel like they can do some of those things with McIntosh and probably a little bit more in terms of working over the middle. Cook was more, fly routes down the sidelines once every couple games, and that was something that hit for Georgia a few times. But I think he could have a really special season. Georgia's always going to rotate backs, but like between receiving yardage and rushing yardage, I'd honestly be surprised if he doesn't eclipse 1,000 yards next season.
Look, and if your offensive line is your best unit and you get him going, it could be dangerous. Sure. Graham Coffey was our guest. Graham, fantastic, man. I love bringing you on. You're always a wealth of knowledge. Tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff and everything that you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at Dog Out West, and we just started a new website called dogcentral.com. Come check it out. We've got some great free articles, awesome forums, lots of great intel. It's myself and about a dozen other UGA content creators, so tons of content, and you can get 6 months for $33.18. Don't know if you can do better than that. So yeah.
It's a really good number, 66.18, man. You gotta love that,
right? Totally.
You gotta love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much, and we'll bring you on before the season starts. And I'm talking to you again soon.
Absolutely, Blake. Always a pleasure. Thanks, man.
You too. That's Graham Coffey. Always fantastic, man. wealth of knowledge, everything he knows and everything he does for Georgia athletics and Georgia football. Fantastic. And I'm looking forward to seeing, man, that was crazy about Eric Gilbert, 300 pounds. I mean, he's like Chris Honeybun Brumfield or Lee, whatever he calls himself out there. Could you imagine Chris running routes? Much. Never mind. I ain't going to say it. But we do have the Petty Man coming up next. We got Ant Petty Marshall. We're going to talk the NBA. We're going to talk the Pels. We're going to talk the draft with him in just a quick moment. Let's pay these bills very quickly. And Marshall, right around the corner to talk some Pels.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vicnair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
He is the pettiest man in the 318. His AYS debut. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Wait a second. Did you go get a fresh line before the show?
Nah, bro. I gotta stay with the fresh line, man.
I hear you. You're a new married man. Look, I know the trials and tribulations it takes to stay on top. Man, what's happening?
It's hard work, but somebody got to do it, man.
Very true. You heard that, woman? Anyway, don't tell her I said that. All right, Ant Marshall's our guest. Ant, look, we have about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. I said this in the beginning of the show, and I truly do believe this in my heart, in my mind. There's not really any – I could sit and watch and listen to a podcast of you talking NBA and basketball. You're really great at it.
Appreciate it.
But let's talk about the Pels. Let's talk about the draft. We'll talk some LSU guys. We'll talk the Pels. Ant, are you like me, and do you feel like for the first time in the NBA draft, the Pels just have so many options? They can trade up. They can trade back. They can make a selection. They can make a selection and trade. There's so many things they could do. It just feels as if that we're always sitting here at the draft like, oh, shit, we got the first pick. We got to pick Fat Zion. Just joking. Don't leave. In all seriousness, though, we got to pick Zion or Anthony Davis or whoever it may be. Is this the first time you can remember that they actually just have options here in the draft?
Yeah, for first time in a long time, if ever. I think that just goes to show like the work that David Griffin's done building this team. They don't really have a weakness right now. They don't have a particular area of need. So they're really at a situation where they can draft, the best player available cliche. They can really just sit there and whoever falls to them, they have the luxury of drafting a guy who can play right away. Great. If not, if he needs to develop and sit for a year, then, they have the luxury of being able to kind of stash him on the end of the bench and give him time to work his way in the roster. Kind of like Golden State, they've done with their last couple picks. So it's been a while since they've been in this position.
What's funny to me is when you say that, I'm old enough to remember when people wanted David Griffin to be fired. I'm old enough to remember when in the middle of the season they wanted David Griffin to be fired because of the Zion stuff, right? Yeah. And now all of a sudden, oh, man, we got too many pieces. Look, I think that – look, you can say whatever you want about LeBron. LeBron did give a lot of kudos to David Griffin when they were in Cleveland. Like, look, if I asked, he would move heaven and earth to do what I would want him to do, and sometimes he could do it, sometimes he couldn't. I think that this is a David Griffin revenge tour at this point, right?
Yeah, I think last offseason, I think he did make some mistakes. The coaching hire, Stan Van Gundy, trading for the fit of Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams wasn't the right fit. And he kind of, owned up to that the following offseason and got rid of Van Gundy, Eric Bledsoe, and Steven Adams. You might not have liked what it took to get rid of Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, giving up a first-round pick, but you can't argue with the results. He got CJ, he got Jonas Valanciunas, he's got a better coach now in Willie Green. So, yeah, he made a mistake, but in fixing his mistake, he put the team better off than they were before.
Do you think now, with hindsight being 2020, that these guys were kind of placeholders to be able to make moves to get where they're at right now?
I don't think originally Bledsoe and Steven Adams were, but I think after he saw the fit, he knew that they were still good enough in some people's eyes to where he could get value in return from it, and he did that in a sense. Getting Valanciunas for Steven Adams. And the Lonzo Ball trade also. At the time, he got killed for the return that they got for the Lonzo Ball, and they just getting Satoransky, Garrett Temple. But you flip Satoransky along with Josh Hart for C.J. McCollum, and that looks totally different. So I think he's done a great job.
Ant, who do you think that they're picking tomorrow? Is there anybody that you want them to pick?
I got a couple guys. Because we're at 8, it all kind of depends on who goes in front of you. I think there's a consensus top 4 in the draft. You got the Jabari, Chet, Paolo, and Jaden Ivey. They're all consensus number 4. After that, you got Keegan Murray, Dyson Daniels, Ben Mathurin, Shaedon Sharpe. I think those are the next 4 guys. I'd take either one of them. Shaedon Sharpe is the one who's the biggest mystery. He didn't play last year for Kentucky. He reclassified, was eligible to play, but decided not to. So we haven't seen him against that high elite level competition, but his upside is ridiculous. Dyson Daniels is kind of like the Lonzo Ball guy we were just talking about. That bigger body, can handle the ball, great defender. Ben Mathurin is that 3-and-D type of guy who was pretty much Arizona's number 1 option offensively. So he's got a little more scoring ability than I think some of the other guys like AJ Griffin from Duke. But I think, man, any one of those 4 would be pretty good for us. And if we decide to trade back, a guy like AJ Griffin or Shohan from Baylor, I think would be good picks also for their defense.
I'm going to ask a very petty question, but not really a petty question.
All right.
If the Pelicans do move back and you're sitting 13-14, do you take Tari Eason if he's there?
I don't know if he would be the first guy on their board if they do trade back, but I think he would be in their top 3 or 4 if they trade back to that range, just because I think they're looking for a guy who's good defensively and a guy who can kind of stretch the floor a little bit. And Tari has shown that he can, hit a 3 at a consistent rate. And only thing I think he needs to get, more consistent with his left hand off the ball. But I think that's something that you can work on since they have the luxury of kind of letting him develop. But I think he's definitely going to go in that 13 to 17 range, and I think he's going to end up being a solid pro once he, works on some of those things.
All right, 2 more, and then we'll get you out of here. And I seriously can sit here and listen to you all night talking about it. Who do you think's going number 1 overall? If it were me, if I gave you the powers that be, and I said, Ant, you have the number 1 overall pick, who are you taking?
If I'm the Orlando Magic,
yes,
I'm taking Jabari Smith.
Agreed.
I think he's more versatile than Paolo or Chet is, and I think he fits with what they got. He can play the 3 or the 4. He can stretch the floor. He's better off the ball than Chet is, and he's a better shooter than Paolo is. So I think he's kind of the best of both worlds between those 2 guys.
I lied. 2 more. Is there who is the biggest sleeper in your mind in this draft? There's always that one guy, whether it be football, baseball. Yeah. Maybe not always basketball, but is there one guy that if the Pelicans drafted him and found a way, and you're like, hey, bro, this dude can just flat out ball? Is there anybody that you're keeping your eye on?
I think that guy is AJ Griffin. I think if he didn't have the injury concerns that he has and the injury history that he had, I think he would be a top 5-6 guy in the draft. But I think some of those injury concerns kind of dropped him. But I mean, he shoots over 40% from 3. He plays defense. He's got a big frame. He's what you want in a 3-and-D wing at the next level. But I think that injury history is one of the only reasons he's dropping it. I think if he is able to stay healthy at the next level, I think he's going to look back and be one of those guys who was a steal.
Ant Marshall from the Golden Boot podcast. Speaking of that, the Golden Boot pod said also, #AskAnt, who is your favorite Golden Booter, and why is it not Daniel or Chris?
Well, no comment on Chris. That's my dog, so I'm gonna leave him out of it. But Daniel, man, Daniel, I always think he can come at me, bro, and I don't,
It's golden. It is golden. When y'all are going at it, you got to admit it's pretty golden. But
I mean, it's good. It's great. It's great content, but sometimes he can't believe what comes out his mouth. He gotta just be saying that just for the show, just to for the sake of arguing.
Oh God, Danny Girl says my favorite golden booter is Daniel. He is heads and tails above the rest. Y'all leave that man alone. He's not here to defend himself. All right, Ant. Listen, I am going to beat the table for you to do your own Pels podcast. I know you don't have the time. I know you'd have to do it at 12 at night every night just to get one in. But nevertheless, you need to do it. And thank you so much. Thank you for your debut. You're running out of time. We're running out of time here. But thank you so much, man. We're going to have to bring you back and talk more Pels in this.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. I'm always down to talk a little ball.
Awesome. All right, that's Ant Penny Marshall. Guys, we are leaving. We are going to call it a night. Go to tigerbait.com. Go to LSU Tigers on Tigerbait. Mike Scarborough and Buddy Sanji are going to be doing their show now. We'll see you guys again soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.